All right, everybody.
He'll never be a lawyer 'cause he can't pass the bar.
This is Karl Gerber at the Karl Gerber Workplace Lawyer Shows. As you can see on that screen, you're looking at that image. It shows the Karl Gerber Workplace Lawyer Show is now heard on 1, 2, 3 radio stations in Los Angeles. Big radio stations. 94.7 The Wave, one of the top stations in Los Angeles. More listeners than, gosh, just about every station. Wonderful audience. Go Country, Sunday mornings, 8 a.m. to 9. Another great FM station. Wonderful country station. Because it's in Los Angeles, I am told that it may be the premier country station in the country because we've got more people in Los Angeles in the #2 radio market than we've got in Nashville and other places where country music is so big. Okay, so we start the Wave 5:30 in the morning on Sunday. I know all of you will be up listening. It's been on already for 5 or 6 weeks on the Wave, and you're going to go up the dial to Go Country 105.1 FM come 8 a.m. And you're going to then go back to sleep once I'm done with Go Country because you're going to need your rest after getting up so early for the Wave. And you're going to wake up just in time to hear me on KABC 790 AM at 8 to 9, the station where all this craziness started back in 2018. If you've been following this show, I've been on all these different times on KBC, wherever I'm needed, wherever there's going to be the best audience. And you might remember I went off the air for a little bit in 2020, the end of the year, when our show was just a couple hundred points of being the #3 broadcast in Los Angeles, the #2 radio market. So the Karl Gerber Workplace Lawyer Show is not a show about employment law. How can that be? No, seriously, there is employment law discussed, and if you tune in on the Wave, there's a lot more employment law discussed because that's not a really long show, and we just want to get some of that in. But we're starting to put in clips from other shows from comedy, and I think it may be next week coming up. We're going to have a live music performer who does modern music, kind of like the stuff you hear on the Wave, come into my studio here. Karl Gerber has his own studio high in the hills of Studio City. I'm looking at a bunch of guitars and a keyboard, but that's not really what I do with it. I do sound, and it just happens to be that sometimes these younger guys that are related to me come in here and have some fun. But this is a real honest-to-God studio with lots of insulation, with soundboard. It's not drywall, with these little things on the walls to make sound get absorbed. I'm sitting in a maze of partitions. It's just an amazing kind of a thing. And I did, as Karl Gerber, workplace lawyer, the real workplace lawyer, I built it myself. I did all this construction ground up, and we're underground. So we've got the capacity to bring you some really wonderful shows, and they're going to be different on every station you tune in. They have been different. And it's really hard, guys, to record 3 different radio shows a week. I'm recording 2.5 hours of content, and I'm scripting all this stuff. So if you're somebody that wants to get in on radio, well, you might want to contact me at 877-525-0700. Go to workplacelawyer.org for an email to contact me. We are at this point looking for all kinds of performers. If you're a country comedian, that would be great, because on Go Country, there are not any commercials on our show. You heard that right. 60 minutes straight, no commercials. We're warming up a fantastic show on Go Country that comes on at 9 a.m. Golden Oldies, 2 hours, heard coast to coast by people streaming. And we just want as many people listening as possible. We don't want to wreck it with commercials. We want to give you the best content, which has got to be some country acts, country comedians, and country musicians. Let's get a banjo player. Call me, 877-525-0700. Let's figure out how we can get your act worked in on that station. I think that one needs performers on that show. On the wave, I've got in some response, I've got an R&B act that is just incredible. The only problem is they're in Tulsa, Oklahoma, so we might have to bring them out for the show. And if you do music that's suitable for 94.7, if you're the soul of Southern California, we want you to perform on the show with me. And so if you're R&B act, if you're old school, that's all cool. If you're anything that would be appropriate for that kind of genre, I want you. And some of the stuff is going to be played too on KABC because that's a cool station for me. They've known me a long time. They trust me. They let me do what I want to do. And if I've got some great comedians, I've got some great musicians, I'm going to stick them on that show too. So if you want to get in on radio and you want to be on the radio, you want to be heard by big audiences because look, I've got some big audiences here. These are not little mom and pop stations. Go Country has pretty high ratings too. The Wave is just like one of the top stations. There are times in the year where it can be the #3 station in Los Angeles. And it's a station I wanted to be on because I think my clients listen to it. I've been listening to it for over 20 years. It's great music. Go Country is a very interesting station too. You guys might think it's all just old country music. Well, that's not true. It's very modern. It's very electronic. The singing is excellent. You cannot be on Go Country if you are not a good singer. And I think all the good singers these days are kind of going in that market. There are some good singers coming out for stuff that might be on the wave also, but really when it gets down to music played on Go Country, if they can't sing, they're not on there. And they're obviously very big names in country at this point, names which are the top sellers in records. I'm going to call them records. So these are good stations to be on, and it's an absolute honor to be on those two FM stations. And it's an absolute honor that KABC still wants me after all this time. And I know I've done some things for them too. I've got them some nice ratings. On my show, typically people may come in and start listening that are not listeners of the station because it's so unusual. And if you have been a Karl Gerber Workplace Lawyer Show listener, you know that we do sketch comedy. I script it every week, and there are no other writers. It's me. If you go to a sitcom, there are 8 to 13 writers per show, minimum executive writers. Well, that's not how I do it. I can do 6,000 or 12,000 words of some of the best comedy myself every week, and that's what makes me a great employment lawyer because I can write anything. And that's something you need to be able to do as a lawyer. And so it's just one of those things, you know, if you can write it, the stations want you. And the stuff I'm writing on these stations right now, it's not sketch comedy the whole time. There is other stuff we're doing. It's just, you know, you're talking 6,000 words for every hour, and that's a lot to write. So some of these acts are 36 minutes. We have fatigue. Today, for instance, we recorded. We've been in the studio since 2 o'clock. I think I came in at 1:30, and you can see it's 7:36 now. So how much did we record in that time? Probably an hour and a half. It takes a lot of time. This is not something that just pops on. It's not a bunch of crap that's going out there. So I do want to also get some of the episodes, because we've been back on the air since May, and there's well over 20. There's probably close to 30 now that are not on YouTube. And I really, it's time consuming. If somebody wants to get into video editing and they want to put pictures on, give me a call, 877-525-0700. That's something that should be done. I know it greatly increases the number of listeners, but for me to put them in these hour videos, I can't do it right now. I'm producing a lot of content for 3 radio stations, and you know, YouTube is great and everything, but here's the thing. When you get on commercial radio and you're on FM or you're on AM, it's measured by Nielsen, and it's measured by how many people continually listen for 15 minutes. And for those of you who are doing a YouTube channel, maybe you review your analytics, well, guess what? Most people are pinging in and out, for lack of a better word. They don't stick around for 15 minutes. Most videos aren't even 15 minutes. So when we get people on the radio listening for 15 minutes, we know that there's a lot of people listening for a minute or 30 seconds too. And if you add up all those people, On one Go Country has a very large audience at the time I'm coming on, for instance. And if you add up all these people pinging in and out, it's a lot more than 100,000 people in that hour. And the Wave, you add up all the people pinging in and out, it's more than 50,000 people. So you just have very large numbers. And the same with KBC. You just have a lot of people coming in and out of these shows. So if you're getting 150,000 or more people listening every week to your show, I don't know, is YouTube something you really want to spend a lot of time? It took me a half a day to make these videos on there when I put pictures, and that's for maybe a half an hour. An hour is like the whole day. So at any rate, if you want to get in on the act here, you might want to contact me, because there's lots of work to do for these radio shows. And this is mainstream radio. This is the big time. This is the big thing. And the stations trust me enough to give me that time. Not just anybody can get on these stations and have an hour show without commercials, or the Wave have a half an hour show where there's only 2 minutes of commercials on my show there. And KBC, they're giving me 48 minutes of time. They run commercials on that show. That's just how it is, because they know that people are listening. So it's an opportunity to get in on doing something that a lot of people are going to listen to and is going places. I had to take some time off from this in 2021 because of the pandemic, and because I didn't have a lot of help in the office and didn't have a lot of trials. And as soon as I went back on the air this year, I just started getting all these offers, forever stations. So I'm sure we'll be on more in days to come, but the LA market is a big market, and that's where I live, and that's where I'd like to be. So look, there's just opportunities to get involved in some really exciting things, because not everyone on the radio is saying we're going to have a show where we've got performers of all kinds. And so this is the opportunity. You know where to get in touch with me if you're a listener. I hope you enjoy the shows. I'll try to make the best content possible. It's been pretty exhausting lately just trying to get all this set up and doing it. And we're doing it. So you're going to listen on the Wave. You tune in 94.7, 5:30 to 6 a.m. Go Country, 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. on Sundays, and KBC 790 a.m. Our AM broadcast is Sunday from 8 to 9 p.m., and the content is not the same. All right, everybody, so I hope you have a wonderful week of workplace abuse. If you do, I think you know where to call, right? You're going to call Karl Gerber at the Employment Lawyers Group. You're going to call 877-525-0700. You're also going to get in contact with me at that number if you want to in some way get involved in all the 2.5 hours of weekly broadcasting we have going on Los Angeles radio. If you're a performer, a musician, if you are R&B, if you're country, if you're a comedian, we want to get you on the show, but you've got to get me a demo tape. It's not good enough for someone to say, oh yeah, I can do anything. The people that say that and the people that tell me about all this experience they've had are usually the worst ones. So I just have to hear a little bit of what you do, and it's got to be suitable. And if you don't have that kind of material, then I'm sorry, you do have to record it. These days, you do have to have a demo to get on a station, and you've got to be clean too. We can't be saying a bunch of cuss words. I know that our show is often the most outrageous broadcast on commercial radio, but we don't cuss. You can't do it. I'm not going to have an FCC violation. I'm not going to be yanked off the air, and that's why these stations trust me. So you've got to have content and be capable of talking without using all those four-letter words. Those words like F-O-U-R, it's a bad word. F-O-R-T, it's a bad word. C-O-O-K, you can't say it on the air. You just can't do it. All right, everyone, so get some rest and start tuning in, because you've got a long day listening to the Karl Gerber Workplace Lawyer Show tomorrow.